Thank you for choosing Dream Home Services for your home inspection. Your inspection video was filmed in high definition so that you get the best look at those hidden areas of your home. However, the actual image quality you get depends on your computer or mobile device and the speed of your internet connection. However, you can make some setting adjustments in YouTube. Right down here along a taskbar, there's a few icons. One of those icons is a little gear. Click that gear. You can change the viewer size and the quality. When you click the quality, choose the highest number. It should be 720 HD. I hope you enjoy your inspection video. The aerial footage gives me a chance to look at the house from a different vantage point than normal, either from on the ground or even standing on the roof. I can spot things from the air that normally can't see. I can even look at the geometry of the structure in the event the foundation has shifted fairly excessively. We are up on the roof now after seeing a nice aerial shot of it. We're up here taking a look. It is the architectural composition shingle roof, which is pretty much standard use nowadays, laid up here very nicely. Now this is a technically complex shaped roof, so I'm watching very closely on those ridge lines, the valleys, to make sure everything's made up nicely, to make sure that it rolls that water off the roof and we don't get any leaking. And it appears that they've done a very good job of that. Even have some areas here where they've covered up, sealed over most of the nail heads that are exposed. Right here we're taking a look at some of the passive attic vents, and there's a lot of these attic vents up here, and they go a long way in helping keep the attic space well ventilated and especially nice and dry. They're plastic attic vents, so these guys, they will eventually start to decompose in the sun. They'll get a little stiff and start cracking, but that's probably about 15 years down the road. We're going to come over here, over the top. Again, we see a lot of these attic vents, but I'm running right down here to take a look at one of the plumbing vents. This is your ABS plumbing pipe. Your vent comes up, penetrates the deck of the roof, and the way they keep from getting water in there is they put this flashing on here, and there's a rubber boot right here that keeps a nice tight seal around that ABS pipe. Here in the Tri-Cities, I've discovered those boots tend to start drying out from the sun at about the 10-year point, and then a few years down the road you start developing cracks. So you're a long way off from that. I was just kind of letting you know, if you're going to be in this house for a while, at about the 10-year point you want to come up and take a look at those boots and see how they're doing. This house also has natural gas supplied to it. Some of your major appliances are gas. And we're taking a look at one of the exhaust flues right here. It's up in there nice. Got a nice wrap around there, flashed well. Shouldn't have any issues with moisture on there. And just jump up here to the peak again, taking a look at how the shingles are lined up well. Haven't lost any to the Tri-Cities wind yet. And real quick, there's a little view from the top of the roof. We are up in the attic space, and we're just going to show you the basic construction of your roof framing up here. It's your 2x4 pre-manufactured trusses. And then the decking, or the sheathing, is the OSB strand board. All the framing members appear to be nice and straight. Didn't notice anything broken on the decking. I don't see any kind of moisture stains going on. So we come down, we take a look, we're just over the garage right here, so there isn't going to be any insulation in the ceiling space over the garage. But as we move over here toward the house, we see nice big fluffy insulation. And we also notice that the ventilation ducting is all supported up and out of the insulation for the house. So that's good to see that they keep it up and out of there. Now we're over here looking at some of those vents that I said go up and out to the roof. These are your laundry room vent and your bathroom vents. And these guys take that warm, moist air out of the bathroom and discharge it out into the environment. Right down over here, I've got another one that goes up and correctly connects to its roof adapter and takes that moist air out of there. So overall, the attic space is in pretty good shape. Oh, I forgot to talk about the exhaust flue there for the water heater. And again, right there around that area where it penetrates the roof is where we're always looking to make sure that no water is getting in, and we have a nice clean area there. We are at the electrical service panel. The service panel is located on an exterior wall here in the garage. It is a Square D brand load center. It's rated at 200 amps, and we do have a 200 amp main service disconnect right here. Coming down and taking a look at the branch circuit breakers, a couple of things I noticed right away is the proper use of the arc fault circuit interrupter type breakers. Those are the kind of breakers that go a long way in helping prevent fires from starting in the walls. They monitor the circuit, sensing any kind of electrical arcing, and they'll trip if they sense that arcing. Also notice down here we still have plenty of breaker slots available. Since this house has natural gas supplying some of the larger appliances, you still have plenty of capacity in this panel for any kind of additional circuits you might want to add. Now we're going to go ahead and put the thermal imaging camera on here, make sure we don't have any unusually warm breakers, and we're going to go inside and take a look. This panel was also inspected by the Department of Labor and Industries back in the end of January, so not too long ago with the final inspection. We are inside the panel now. We're going to go ahead and start at the bottom, and I'm at the top. We'll work our way down. Looking at the branch circuit breakers entering the panel, they all enter the panel through the proper panel connectors. Our service entrance conductors coming in, tying correctly to the lugs of the main service disconnect, and the service entrance ground tying into the lug of the neutral bus. See the green top bolt right there? That indicates this panel is properly bonded. Coming down a little bit, we see that the conductors are properly fixed to the neutral and ground buses. The branch circuit breakers, a couple of things we're looking for is to make sure each one of these breakers only has one conductor going into it, what we call a single tap, and to make sure that the proper diameter or gauge wire is used for the rated capacity of the breaker. Now that we're in here, we see these arc fault circuit interrupter type breakers that I had talked about originally. These guys are a little bit larger than a standard breaker because they have a circuitry in there that's monitoring, sensing any of those arc faults. The purple ones here are your ground fault circuit interrupter type breakers. Everybody's pretty familiar with those, but the white ones are the arc fault circuit interrupter type breaker. And finally, we come down to the bottom. We see some heavy gauge bare copper conductor coming in. Those are the lines that make up the system ground for your electrical system here. Also got one more little branch circuit conductor coming in right there. Overall, the panel appears to be safe and compliant. We are down in the crawl space. I'm going to show you a little bit of the layout. There's your concrete foundation perimeter wall. And then we have the plastic moisture barrier down here that keeps all the moisture from the earth from coming up, getting into this space. Let's get some of that out of there. Then we have the concrete piers and the wooden posts, and then the posts hold up your beams, and then across the beams are your floor joists. And in between the floor joists, we have the floor insulation. So because you have lots of insulation there in the floor, you're not going to lose any of your heating and cooling if you leave those crawl space vents open year-round. And that's what I recommend. Sometimes your friends will tell you to close those in the winter to retain heat, but it's very important to keep those guys open because you really need this space to stay well ventilated. Now we're over here in the area where the main drain piping for the house comes down, goes underneath the foundation and goes out to the sewer. That's where all your drains end up going out. And then under that pink insulation is the main water line, bringing water into the house. And then that goes to that valve that I showed you out there next to the water heater. I always make a point to come over here because this is where I can often find water if something's backing up. But luckily everything over here is nice and dry and looking good. As I crawl around down here, it's actually mostly pretty clean down here. They did a good job of cleaning up all the construction debris. But I did find one piece of wood left over down here, and that is what we call a conducive condition for wood-destroying organisms. And it's really better just not to leave any of that down here. So I recommend you have them come down and get any kind of residual lumber out of here. While I'm down here, I always like to pull some of that moisture barrier back. Just make sure it's doing its job. We can see some moist earth right there, and that's pretty typical. There's a little moisture there on the underside of the barrier, which means it's doing its job. And I'm also checking to make sure they didn't hide any pieces of wood under there, because you really don't want that wood down there touching the ground. Well, see something right over here. Oh, yep. Well, we do have some little bit of lumber hiding down here. Those tricky guys. Yeah, we just need to make sure that gets taken out of here. So I figured we just stop for a moment and let's just see the general look down here. See, for the most part, pretty clean, well laid out, nice and open.